Good morning, New Life. Happy Sabbath to you. I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I want to thank you for your partnership with College Park Elementary School, for your support and your willingness. I know a thriving church when I see a thriving church. I see how you've grown 2 services. Yay for me, 2 sermons. But yay for you, truly. And I know that when that happens, sometimes there aren't pieces or places available for certain entities. So I'm glad that you still safeguard a Sabbath for us each year. And I'm so thrilled that you choose to walk alongside families that may be struggling to get their kids to College Park, and that you make a way for that to happen. So I just want to thank you and recognize you for your support. You know, when I was thinking about what to say today, and I said this in the back, but the wrong DeSilva is really up front, but you're going to have to do with me. When I was thinking about what to say today, I kept coming back to the same theme, which is Jesus over everything. And it's something that I'm really passionate about, so much so that this morning my husband said to me, "Please don't wear your shirt backwards." I said, "Nope, I'm wearing it backwards so they can see the Jesus over everything." So I know some of my staff thought, "Poor woman, she's losing it, she's stressed." But no, it's intentional. I wanted there to be a sea of, when you look at the back of our students, just a sea of the message of Jesus over everything. I remember clearly on our Terry Fox run that when the kids were in the assembly, it was just a wall of Jesus over everything. And I feel strongly that in today's world that we need that message, that we need to be reminded that Jesus is over everything. It's messy times that we're living in. It's scary times, it can be. But when we hold in our heart the truth that Jesus is over everything, it just makes everything better. I shared earlier that I was asked yesterday if I could produce a t-shirt for Adrian, and I couldn't because there was a technician that came to CPES, and he saw the shirts, and I had leaned over to get something for him, and when I got back up, he said, "I need that shirt." "Where did you get that shirt?" I said, "Well, we sell this shirt." And he walked away with that shirt because he felt that people need to see that message. And so it is concerning times, but it's a time that's ripe for the opportunity to remind people that with Jesus, we don't need to fear, that he is over everything. And that's the message we've been trying to plant in the hearts of our children this year. So if you would just join me in prayer, then we'll begin. Our Father, which art in heaven, Lord, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to pause on your Sabbath day to be reminded that you are God, that we are your people, that you see us, you love us, you care for us, that you're over all things, and we need not fear because you are a good God who will not forsake us and is coming to take us home. In Jesus' name, we ask and pray these things. Amen. All right. So that's the visual for Jesus over everything. Sorry, guys, I missed that. But we're going to dive into Mark chapter 4. And we know that the Bible is inspired, but I submit to you today that we're going to look at 2 stories, and I feel like they kind of messed up breaking up the chapters between these 2 stories because I think it's just really one giant story that shows us God's supremacy, his love for us, and the depths and lengths at which he'll go to find us. So to set the scene, our story, our text starts today in Galilee, and Jesus is by the lakeshore, and a crowd has come. I imagine it was a beautiful, glorious, sunny day. A crowd has come. He's been there all day. There's so many people that he's had to get into a boat to have space to speak to the people. And he's by the Sea of Galilee, and I put it up there for you to see. I actually had to put a little arrow because I thought you would miss it. That little dot is the Sea of Galilee. That other image is Lake Ontario. Just to give you an idea, it's just a tiny little sea. It's called a sea, but it's really a lake. It's a freshwater lake. And it's not very big at all, but it's a mighty, tiny, but mighty. In fact, the point that Jesus crosses in our story today is only 8 kilometers, not big at all. But I want you to envision hills and cliffs on the side, going up the side, and the sea dips down, and it's actually 200 meters below sea level. And so because of those mountains, the cold air will come up from the top, rush down into that warm basin, and then you get these big, gigantic storms. So on a day, much like today, beautiful and sunny, at the end of the day, Jesus said to his disciples that it was time to get into the boat. So as evening came, the text reads, As evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's cross to the other side of the lake." So they took Jesus and the boat and started out, leaving the crowds behind, although other boats followed. Jesus said it, no room for doubt. Get into the boat. Certainly everything's going to go well and according to plan. I don't know about you, but I've said it before in my life that I would love it if sometimes there was a billboard that lit up and it said, "Michelle, go this way. Do this, do that." And why does it have to be so complicated to hear what God is telling us to do? But in this case, it wasn't complicated at all. The billboard lit up, get into the boat, get into the boat. They get into the boat, and bam, into a storm. We have this idea that when we're following Jesus, that things are going to go smashingly well. And yet, at times, it's not quite like that. Verse 37 says, "But soon a fierce storm came up. High waves were breaking into the boat, and it began to fill with water. Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat on a cushion." This reminds me of many, many years ago when my daughter Mackenzie was 3. We were at Camp Frenda. My husband and I were blessed, or more like the children and I were blessed, to spend 8 summers of our lives at Frenda. While he worked, we played. And the kids loved all things Frenda. They wanted to do everything. The water was Mackenzie's favorite place. I can remember standing on the dock many times and her trying to convince me that in, end of June, Lake Rosso was warm and beautiful. "Let's jump in, Mommy." And in she would go with her water wings, and in I would be in freezing, chilling water. And so one of the things they love to do is ride boats. And actually, I see a couple of Frenda boat drivers here now that I think about it. One works at my school, and I see another one in the balcony, and there may be others that I have missed. But the kids loved the boats, and what they wanted was to go fast. Now, they rarely got to go on the speed boats because the boats were for campers. But I arranged for them to have a ride one day, and she was just 3. I put her into her life jacket. She waddled her way on the dock, chubby little legs and all. And Ethan was 6. And Amaris was 16, so she was busy working. But we got into the boat, and the first thing they do is run to the front of the boat, life jackets on, and of course they're yelling at the Frenda staff, "Faster, faster, faster." And they're going at breakneck speed. Safety Mom is not happy, but they're assuring me that all is well, and we're zooming out way into the lake. We're out quite a ways from camp, just about the time that I'm thinking we got to turn this boat around. Rest period's almost over. And all of a sudden, the heavens just open. And it's not like little summer rain. It's like the heavens open, deluge comes down, and the raindrops start falling. The wind is howling. Dark clouds have come in. We're seeing flashes of things that shouldn't be happening. And Mackenzie, I remember clearly, she came running from the front of the boat to me. I don't know if you've been in a speedboat when the heavens open, but like every raindrop feels like a piece of ice or a bullet that's hitting you. It's not comfortable. She's running, she's crying, she's a mess. And I scooped her up, I put her in my lap. She turned in to face me, legs this way, on my chest, near my heart. And I started singing to her, "Jesus Loves Me," which is what I used to do when she was upset. And I would weave her name into the song. And she's crying. I said, "Don't worry, Mommy's here. Jesus is here," kind of thing. And the storm is still going. The wind is howling. The clouds, nothing has stopped. But all parents know that feeling when your child starts getting really heavy on your lap. And you know that they're falling asleep. Nothing changed all around us. But yet my Mackenzie slept peacefully as the rain fell. Perfect peace, safe in her mother's arms, seemingly unaware of the storm that had just disturbed her moments earlier. That was Jesus, asleep and sound, not aware or not disturbed by the storm. I came across a really powerful thought in a commentary about this, and it said like this: think of all the worries that could have kept Jesus up, and yet he sleeps peacefully. Really think about it. I mean, his disciples were a hot mess. They were a gong show. We've got Simon the Zealot, who's like the James Bond of the group, out to kill any moment that he sees. Sons of thunder that are raining down lightning on cities. Peter, who can't think for a second before he speaks. Someone's thieving in the group. It was a mess. They certainly weren't the A-team, I'll tell you that much. Then he's got crowds of people that are misguided, thinking that maybe he could free them from Roman oppression. Maybe he could be a king. He's got death plots all around, demonic forces to contend with, and yet somehow he sleeps. When I think about that, I think about myself. I'll be very honest, there are many nights that I don't sleep well. There are many nights I wake up at 3 a.m. wondering about the boiler in the school, or at 2 a.m. worried about, just nonsense. But Jesus sleeps, safe and secure, resting in the security that comes from knowing his Father loves him and he will protect him. The disciples in verse 38, it says that they look at him and they're shouting and say, "Teacher, teacher, don't you care? We're drowning." Jesus awakes to their calls and their protests. Notice they're not actually asking for help. This is why I love the Bible, because it is so real. It is so us. How many times do we go to God with our complaints? This is not fair. This is not how it should be. This is wrong. Da, da, da. But we don't seem, and we carry our worries very close to our chest. But how often do we actually make it to asking for help? But yet, even though they don't ask for help, you'll notice that he's faithful and true, and he helps. Verse 39 tells us, he rebuked the wind and the waves and said, "Silent, peace, be still." And suddenly the wind stopped and there was a great calm. There used to be the day, and maybe still now, where a mother could walk into the room and just give her kids the look, and it stopped. It was like, knock it off, and it ended. And this is kind of what this reminds me of, is that Jesus looks at the storm and he's like, cut it out. Done. But why does the Bible use the word rebuked? Why not quieted? Why not silenced? It's very clear if you look in the original language that this is a demonic storm. This is no regular storm. This word rebuked is the word that he uses when he rebukes demons. It implies spiritual warfare. It's not ordinary. One commentator wrote, "The force threatening him and his disciples was muzzled at once as Jesus subdued it with his sovereign word of authority." Today in New Life, I came to tell you that Jesus is over your bad days. He's over my bad days, and he's over the storms in life. He is in control, and listen carefully, should he decide to do so, he can rebuke the storm. And if he does, it must obey. Notice the Bible doesn't promise that there won't be storms. You can do everything right. You can get into the boat that Jesus told you to get into and still hit a storm. Some of us as Christians believe in this Pollyanna-type world where everything's going to go wrong. And we do a great disservice to ourselves, but to be honest, I'm more concerned about what we do to our kids when we foster this idea of this fairy tale, fairy godmother type of God, that if you love him, everything's going to go really well. And then when it doesn't go well, our children have no safety net to hold on to, because we haven't taught him that Jesus promised to be in the storms. Yes, he can rebuke the storms, but sometimes they don't go away. He comes into the storm. We align ourselves with Jesus. The devil aligns himself against us. Therefore, there will be storms. But we do not fear and tremble. Psalms 89, 8 and 9 says, talking about God, "You rule the raging sea. When the waves rise, you still them." Point number 2, Jesus over the enemy, the devil, his schemes. This demon-infused storm, what's up with that? The devil is doing everything in his power to stop Jesus from getting to the other side of the lake, because he knows there's someone there that needs to be set free. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter what the devil throws at us. At one word from Jesus, storms can calm. But I want to acknowledge that some of us are walking really hard roads. I mean, it doesn't take much to just look around at CPS, look at our staff, look at our families, look at the students, look at the trauma, to know that there are terrible things happening. This world is not our home. It's not as it should be. Sometimes God calms the storm, and sometimes, like with my Mackenzie, his presence calms the storm within, while the storm still rages all around. He can still the chaos within. He makes himself known, and the storm continues. In verse 40, it says, he asked them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" Notice the storm didn't bother Jesus. His disciples' lack of faith did. And yet he remains faithful and steadfast to his mission to seek and save the lost. Third point, Jesus over our fear, over our moments of lack of faith. He can take our doubts. He can take our questions. He can take our fears. He can take our faithlessness. He remains faithful. My favorite Bible text is 2 Timothy 2:13. It says, "If we are faithless, he remains faithful, for he cannot deny himself." Faithful to me is who God is. God equals faithfulness, full stop. It doesn't depend on my faithfulness. He remains faithful to me. He is greater than the fears that overwhelm me. You know, I love that Josh Wilson song, for those of you that like Christian music. There's a line in it that says, "I know the truth. The things that I'm afraid of are afraid of you." It's beautiful when you think about it. I might be afraid of cancer, but cancer is a demon-induced thing, and that cancer is afraid of Jesus. The devil is afraid of Jesus. I might be afraid of death. I might be afraid of loss. I might be afraid of bankruptcy. I might be, who knows what it is, what my kids' choices will be. But all the things that I'm afraid of come from the devil, and the devil is afraid of my Jesus. The devil has no power against my Jesus. That one word from my Jesus, the devil and his minions flee. They bow in submission because they are conquered, and he is the victor. So Jesus makes it to the other side. He makes it to the region of the Gerasenes. And this is an interesting place because this is where a good Jewish boy would not go. In fact, many people and pastors and commentators say that perhaps the prodigal son went here. This is a place for a good time that a Jewish boy should not be happening. But this is where Jesus goes. It's the Decapolis. There are 10 cities. It's a Gentile region where the heathens live. They're Greek Hellenistic cities. The Decapolis is like the original 10, kind of like, the original Big Ten conference, which is now, 16, 18 teams? I'm not sure exactly. But it starts off as 10, and it's grown, right? So he goes here to the land of the heathens. Again, why? Because there's someone that needs to be set free. That's why the storm came. That's why the devil tried to stop him. And that is why he goes, because he knows for one person, he's willing to cross a raging, storming sea when one person needs to be set free. So it says in verses 1 and 2, "So they arrived at the other side of the lake in the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus climbed out of the boat, a possessed man by an evil spirit came out of the tombs to meet him." Notice, no mention of his disciples getting out of the boat. I'm not sure I'd get out of the boat either, to be honest, based on the reception they receive. Is this an omission? Are they afraid? Are they stuck in the boat? Are they just not entering the land of the heathens? I'm not exactly sure what's happening here. But it says, this man lived in the burial caves, unclean spot for a Jewish boy to be. He could no longer be restrained, even with a chain. And whenever he was put into chains and shackles, he often snapped his chains from his wrists, smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. This is like the Incredible Hulk right here. Okay? Day and night, it says, he wandered among the burial caves and the hills, howling and cutting himself with sharp stones. Who was this man? Was this someone's son? I mean, certainly he had been a little boy. Certainly he had nursed. Certainly he had played with toys, made friends in the street. How did he get here? Is this someone's father? Could he be the one that read bedtime stories to someone once upon a time? Is this someone's husband? Stop to think about it. Me minus Jesus could easily be this man. We're all one choice away, and choices lead in a direction, and somehow this is where he is. He's been laid low by Satan, whoever he is. The devil does not love us. He does not desire to care for us. He has one goal, and that is to destroy us. He does not take care of his vessels. He does not protect them. Verse 6 says, when Jesus was still some distance away, he saw the man ran to meet him, and bowed low before him. With a shriek, he screamed, "Why are you interfering with me, Son of the Most High God? In the name of God, I beg you, do not torture me." You know, this is quite the reception. Maybe this is why the disciples are still in the boat. But this is quite the reception. And this is what I find really interesting. If you read the book of Mark at this point in the story, everybody's kind of still unclear about who Jesus is. He's kind of cool. He can work miracles. No one's really decided that he's the Son of God. But the demons are very clear on who he is. Jesus, Son of the Most High God. There's no confusion. And the other thing they're clear on is that they don't want Jesus running interference. Next point. Jesus, over the enemy, demonic forces in your life, and the lives of your loved ones. You know, recently I saw an Easter play at Willowdale where my husband is the pastor, and there was a young lady that was portraying the person that was possessed by a demon. And all that happened every time she moved was that there was 7 people cloaked in black robes that just followed her the whole time. I think if we could really see what is happening all around us, we would take more seriously the battle that we're in. I think we're lulled into thinking, oh, that's just normal. This is just life. This is just the way it is. But I think when we talk about the great controversy, that we need to really stop and think what's happening, because it is a battle and demonic forces abound. When we recognize that, then we can be intentional in praying. We can be intentional in asking for freedom. Notice, the devil must bow in the presence of divinity. He pleads for mercy. He does not want to be messed with. He does not want Christ to run interference. I say, Lord, interfere. Have your way, intervene. You know, I can think of many times I've stood on the sidelines of a football field yelling at Ethan. Basically, I'm not a sports person, but basically, get in their way. Like, make it difficult for the other team. Same with Mackenzie on the basketball court, is like, mess it up. Like, you know, I shared earlier, and I noticed Adrian giggled because he knew my husband as a younger person, but my husband has lost Jesus watching his children play sports because he gets right into it, right? But, you know, you've got to be aggressive to get things done on a field or a court. And we need to be aggressive in praying and asking Jesus to interfere. So if you are a mama or a papa out there that is praying for your children, don't stop praying. Don't stop praying. Claim Jesus' interference in their lives. He is a miracle-working God. If you're on the brink of divorce, don't stop praying. Those cold, hard hearts can be turned around. If you're shackled by depression, despair, mental health, anxiety, don't stop praying. He can bring peace. He can bring healing. I don't know what your situation is. I just know we all have it. We all have our invisible suitcase that we're carrying with us. We can all smile and plaster on the mask. Happy Sabbath. Everything's great. But the truth is, we are all carrying something. Don't give up on praying. Ask Jesus to run interference, because he promises he will not grow weary of praying. When I was younger, there was a saying that I loved to tell my brothers. One of them is here to be like, this is an A and B conversation, so see your way. I thought I was so clever. He's smiling. He knows what I'm talking about. I thought I was so clever. But for the Christian, there is no A and B conversation that Jesus cannot see his way into, at least for the wise Christian, right? So claim Jesus over the demonic forces in your life and in the lives of your loved one. Verse 8 says, Jesus said to the spirit already, come out, you evil spirit. So we're not going to read the whole thing because you know how it goes. Verse 9, it tells us there's not just one demon, there's a legion of demons. That means there's 6,000 demons in one man's body, because a Roman legion is made up of 6,000 people. Have mercy. A legion is well-trained, united to fight. But in the presence of Jesus, the legion flees. It has no choice but to leave. Amen. We know what happens. The legion runs to the herds of 2,000 pigs. They go plummeting to their death. This doesn't really go over really well with the locals. Verse 14, the herdsmen go running to the field nearby. To the town nearby in the countryside, and they spread the news of what has happened. Verse 15 is where I want you to see. A crowd soon gathered around Jesus, and they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons. He was sitting there, fully clothed, perfectly sane, and they were all afraid. Jesus, over our salvation, freedom from destruction and bondage. Jesus, over our shame. He brings healing and restoration. He was naked, now he's clothed. Jesus, over our messes, over our troubles, over all of it. I don't know what challenges you face today and what's holding you captive. It may be the thoughts in your head, financial debt, addictions, whatever it is. One thing I'm confident of, that they are no match for the man who ejected 6,000 demons from another man. You know, I want to tell you that, and just as a little joke for the people that were here this morning, the timer is working now. But I was told I could ignore it if it went into the red. Don't worry, I'm almost done. But I was a victim of false theology growing up. So I was told that should I decide to go to this place, which was a naughty place, that the devil, Jesus and his angels will be waiting right here for me. He would wait at the door, but he wouldn't come with me. But that's false, because this story tells me this. Jesus right now is where no good Jewish boy should be. He's gone to the Decapolis. He's gone where the heathens live. He's in an unclean place, burial tombs. He's an unclean man filled with demons. He's surrounded by pigs. Jews wouldn't be surrounded by pigs. It's a hot mess. But here's the point. Jesus would go to the very gates of hell to save me. And there's no place where I am that he won't come with me. There'll be no waiting out here while I'm in here. He'll be right here with me, hoping I have the common sense to say, Jesus, and he'll be right there to save me. So please remember that. I have to confess that I walk through life, though, even knowing that, even saying that to you, as a child of the King, who sometimes acts as if that's not my reality. And I don't think I'm alone in this. I don't always run to Jesus like my Mackenzie ran to me. My first instinct is not to come to him with my messes. It's usually to fix it. And to be honest, I'm more like the toddler who's toilet training, who goes and hides behind the couch to do the mess that he knows he shouldn't be doing and sits in the mess, waiting for the mother to finally figure it out. And then when they're uncomfortable, then they're really uncomfortable, and then they come to you to clean up the mess. It's not a really good look, to be honest. But I think most grown-ups actually operate that way. And this is what I love about the Bible, is that it makes it so clear that, you know, it's so easy to see what our toddler is doing wrong. But yet we have these toddler-like tendencies as grown-ups. We need to learn to go to Jesus, to trust him, because he is over everything, even the messy places of my life. Verse 17 says, the crowd began pleading with Jesus to go away. Interesting reaction. Interesting. They're not ready for him. Here's what I don't notice. Jesus saying, hey, people, I'm the Son of God. I don't know if you know this, but you need me. I'm staying right here with you until you want me. I don't see that. I don't see him trying to convince them, to cajole them, to reason with them, to beg them. In fact, I don't see Jesus getting offended. Can we talk for a quick sidebar on 1 Corinthians? Love is not easily offended. We really need to learn that in church. We really need to master that one. I think it's one of the hardest ones. Jesus is not easily offended. They ask him to leave. The healed man begs him to stay. And at last, Jesus says yes to the crowd and leaves, and no to the man. Next point. Jesus over our choices and over our faith journey. He literally came over at that moment just to save that man, healed one man, and then left. And yet he accepts the crowd's rejection. He has a plan. He doesn't need to stay there to fix it himself. He's leaving someone behind. Many of these same people that begged him to leave eagerly welcome him. It's about God's timing, not our timing. You know, as a mom, this is the hardest thing I've had to learn in life, that I try, like, if you think praying for your little kids is one thing, like, just hold on tight for the teenage and university years. So I'm going to share a story with my son's consent, but my son, he's a great kid, lovely kid. But there was a time when he was not really tight with God. I knew it, he knew it. I would send him texts and things and, do all the things that I thought I could do. I would talk to God about it. God, seriously, we've dedicated our whole lives to serving you. We can't lose our kids. We can't be baptizing other people's kids and our own kids. What's happening here? And I remember praying, and I had it all figured out for God. He just needed to put godly people in Ethan's life, people that pointed him to God. I put him in a place where they had vespers and chapels and, university at Southern, and he was not availing himself of those opportunities. So then send people. But God did the exact opposite thing. My son was talking with some of his friends and his roommates, and he was talking about how he was super excited to come home, and he was coming to visit some of his friends that he's had since kindergarten at College Park. And his roommate said to him, "Oh, are they Christian?" And he said, "Well, they're like me." And his roommate, without missing a beat, said, "Oh, so they're not Christian." Ethan said in that moment, he felt so small and so what have I done that would make him think that I'm not Christian? See, I thought God needed to put godly people in Ethan's lives, but what he really needed was someone that was also on the fringe like Ethan to say and call out, "Well, you're not a Christian." And he said that his friend could see the look in his face, and he started trying to walk it back, but it was too late. And that sat with him. What am I doing? How am I living that people don't think I'm a Jesus person? Last summer, I'm happy to say that, there was an appeal at Camp Frenda where Ethan happened to be working. And I had the privilege of seeing my son. He didn't walk up. He ran up to the front. He ran up to the front. And that's a God thing. That's Jesus over our choices, over our faith journey, giving us time and people to bring us to a place where we come back to him. That's not me picking at him and preaching to him. That's a God thing when that happens. And where he is now with his walk with Jesus, it just makes me so happy and gives me so much hope. And I was afraid I would cry when I share that story, but I know there's a mother out there that's worried too. And I believe that in these last days, we don't have time to play pretend anymore. That we need to be authentic. We need to be real with our stories so we can encourage other people. And so, you have a story. This man had a story. Jesus is over our testimony. He knows that my story is going to help someone else. I can't be playing pretend like everything's perfect because you're not going to want to hear my perfect story when you're in your mess. But here's the truth. We're all in a mess together. Okay? And Jesus is over all of it. What has Jesus done for you? You have a story to share. So let's recap. Jesus is over our bad days, our enemy. He's over fear, lack of faith, salvation, the journey, our testimony. Jesus is bigger than all of life's problems, the storms. He does not promise it will be easy. In fact, he tells us quite clearly, "I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace." He promises peace, but in this world you will have trouble. Not you might have, you will. Definite. Count on it. Take it to the bank. But take heart, I have overcome the world. I don't know what your moment is now. But I know that we need to choose to stubbornly cling to Jesus in these times. This is not our home. This is not the end of our story. The author of the song that we're going to sing next is Peter Burton. It's the song that we use as a theme song at the school. And he shares very authentically about his mental health struggles, how he's paralyzed or used to be paralyzed by anxiety and depression, and how one day he said to his mom, "I want to have faith, but I don't." And she replied, "Well, the good news is faith is not a feeling, it's a choice. It's a choice we can all make today. We can choose to be determined that come what may, What is true is what we're going to hold on to, which is this is not the end. Our hope is greater and bigger. We choose to claim Jesus over everything, every season, good day, bad day, high, low, storms in life.